before they were like, yeah, you should get a job. And I was like, nah, mom, like I just want to play my guitar. I fuck with being a class clown. Turn up on your teachers at all times.
And your mentor, is it Stuart Frankie or something?
Whoa! You did your research. Holy shit. Oh my god.
And then back then you were listening to, how do you say it,
Jamaican Queens, bro! What the fuck? Yes. And she was like, I'm moving to LA, like if you don't come, you're a lame and we'll probably break up. And I was like, alright, bet, I'll be there next week. I had offers from like all these record labels, but I didn't have an offer from Interscope. And I really wanted to sign Interscope just because like the hoodies are fire.
Sidewalk. Today I'm here with YOSHI FLOWER. So you're born in Detroit?
Yes.
Our parents from there?
My father's from Detroit, my mom's from New York.
What was in it for them?
My dad had some like crazy shit happen to him. And so he moved back to Detroit to like be near his family and shit.
Oh.
But it ended up being really good because all my friends that I know that were like raised in New York City are just like wild. So I think Detroit's a really good place to grow up.
Yeah.
I'm happy about that.
And your dad, was it from a young age that he was doing stuff with like smaller bands or like being more of a lawyer to them?
Yeah, when he was mad young, he was like roommates with like Steven Tyler when he was like 18. So that was like shit, like 50 years ago. So he always like loved music and shit and was like involved. My whole life he always like kept me in the loop with really dope shit, like showed me psychedelic. He claims he went to Woodstock. I don't really know if he did, but he always put me on to like really good music, really psychedelic shit.
Does he still do that? What is his career now? Does he still do that?
Yeah, he still does it. He's like lawyer. Yeah, he's just a great guy and a dad.
Does he help you with your stuff too, like the lawyer?
Nah.
I guess you have your own people now.
Yeah, I mean he always has my back, and he just like listens, which is like crazy. He's just always there for me and I love that. I'm grateful for that, so that's really all I need.
Did he ever really mentor you or anything with your career?
He gave me my first guitar. There was an artist who gave him a guitar in compensation. When he gave it to me, I was so bad at it. And he was like, bro, you need to get good or else like it's gonna just be so annoying.
Yeah.
So that was like a good mentor moment because he's like, bro, you need to start flexing on guitar. So I was like, alright, Pops. I can do that.
Didn't he send you to like bars to perform when you were 12?
Yeah, he would have, there was like PJ's Lager House, which is like the grimiest venue in Detroit. And when I was like mad young, if the opener dropped out, he'd be like, yo, my son's about to play. And then I'd pull up and they'd be like, yo, why is there like a 12-year-old in a bar? And he'd be like, nah, he's cool, let him play. So I would play and like, some people hated it and some people really loved it, but I met a lot of cool like working musicians. I knew what it was like for people to go out every night and play for like 40, 60, 80 bucks a night and just like figure out a way to make a living. So it was really cool growing up like that.
Were you ever back then performing songs that you wrote? Like were you already writing songs back then?
Yeah, I was. They were so bad. But I would cover like Neil Young, Oasis, Bryan Adams, like City and Color, just like kind of stuff that my dad showed me, like older stuff. And I didn't really start performing my own stuff till I was like in high school.
And your mom, has she always been a background singer?
Not anymore, but she was an actress.
Oh wow.
She was in a film called The Warriors. It's like this cult film about gangs in New York. So I think she like shoots a dude and like makes out with a dude and like so she's really cool though. Now she kinda is like on her Zen shit. And she's like one of my best friends.
Oh, I love that.
She's so dope.
And back then, like playing guitar music was kind of escape, right? Because you were bullied back then.
I mean, I had equal parts of like being cool and not cool. I was just like in the middle. But like, I think everyone starts out with their art as just like an escape and something that you can work at, that you really choose to work at, because like every day you go to school and you're like, fuck, like I have to do X, Y, Z, and it's special to just be like coming home or going to some space where you're like, oh, I pick this and I'm gonna work really hard at this and like figure out how to solve problems on something that I really love. So that was really cool, because like I never did homework once, like not one time ever in my life. What? But my mom always laughs at that shit. But I was just like playing guitar in my room, and she'd be like, yo, record that, and I'd be like, no, it's so trash. If it's good, I'll remember it. So there's songs from when I was like 12 years old that I still remember.
Oh my God.
But I would never show them to anyone.
So your parents didn't push you at all academically? Like they didn't care about your grades?
No, they didn't care about my grades at all.
Damn.
Like they supported me with whatever I wanted to do, but my dad just like, he drove me to school like 1 year every day and we would listen to music. It was so dope.
That's so cool.
But no, they didn't care about that shit. They just let me do whatever I wanted to do, and that was like really cool.
Did they and you know that some way or another you were gonna make it as a musician?
I think so. I don't know if I've necessarily like made it, but
Could live off, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it wasn't until kids started pulling up at my shows and like following me that my dad was like, okay, like I feel it. Because before they were like, yeah, you should get a job. And I was like, nah, Mom, like I just want to play my guitar. And she's like, good luck with that. There'll always be a place for you at home. I'm like, oh shit. But no, they're super supportive, but I don't think that in Detroit your parents are about to be like, yo, we're gonna make you a musician, son, like we're gonna do it. Like that's some LA shit.
But then back then you were more like a class clown, right? With super long hair.
Yeah, I just didn't give a fuck. When I was in school, they would like write letters to my parents and be like, your son is like disrupting the educational environment. But I was just trying to turn up, like pretty much. And yeah, I was definitely like a class clown. Just cause I was like, yo, this shit is so whack. And like when you're mad sad, you're like trying to just always crack jokes and shit. I'd be like, man, fuck school. But like if it's what you're into, I really support it. But like I don't like rigid stuff that has hierarchy and like power structures and shit like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think education is like the only thing that my taxes should go to, but they still need to change that system. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it, but yeah, I fuck with being a class clown. Turn up on your teachers at all times.
And then were you putting out music under different aliases back then growing up?
Man, I had so many aliases, yo, like I don't even remember, like on MySpace and shit. And Facebook, yeah, I had the one like called like Olive View, like I love you. So whack and corny. I had a band. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even want to say, because people, if you're trying to dig into my shit, just like please stay asleep on all of it. Like I only listen to YOSHI FLOWER.
Did you get far with it, like the ones of your solo, like before your duo back then?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, we lived in a mansion in Detroit. We were like, you know, like teenagers, just like felt like we were on top of the world, just like doing hella drugs and just like making tons of music. And
this was during, is it Gosh Pith?
Yeah, they're in Gosh Pith.
How did you meet the other person?
I met Josh through my friend James, and James was like our spiritual advisor. He was actually in the band for like one night. And we met because he was like, yo, you gotta meet Josh, he makes crazy beats. And I was like, okay. And then Josh taught me pretty much how to like do everything musically other than just talk shit and like slam on my guitar. And that was really fun. Like we put out a song called Waves, and it really just went off and like started let us like pay our rent. And that was a crazy moment because we were like, holy shit, we could just live off music, like oh my god, we did it. And then we were like, oh shit, we need health insurance, fuck, we gotta make more music.
How old were you when this was happening?
We were like 18, 19 and shit.
Oh, so you just finished high school?
Yeah, we met right at the end of high school and became like best friends, and that was awesome because I don't know, in the Midwest it's like really hard to figure out ways to not have to work a day job.
How did you go from finishing high school to work, like living in a mansion?
Oh, because Detroit's cheap.
Oh.
I mean, it was back then, but then that's the reason I moved here, is because like the gentrification is just so crazy. I don't even know, I'm not knowledgeable about the ways of that. But we were paying $200 a month.
What?
Each.
That's insane.
And by the time I left, they were like, oh, we're gonna have to each pay like $700, $800, $900 a month. So I was like, yo, nobody still has jobs. How are they raising the rent? Like, I feel like they're moving too fast, and like, I could have been wrong, but I was like, yo, I could just go live in LA for that amount. And yeah, so I was like, yeah, move to LA, fuck it.
And your mentor, is it Stuart Frankie or something?
Whoa! You did your research. Holy shit. Oh my god. Big ups to you for that. Yeah, he was like a dope ass musician. He took me into a recording studio, like a real recording studio, for my first time. And I think my mom or dad just like introduced me to him because he was just like, he had 2 daughters, like drove a Jeep and shit, and he like figured out a way to live off music. So I feel like, and he also had this crazy like compassion for it. So I think my mom wanted me to just be around somebody who just really loved music but also made it, because I always loved music as a fan, but some people that I meet, I don't know, like people in Detroit, it could get salted because they're just like, fuck, it's so hard to make music and live. But he was just a special guy. He was crazy. I can't believe that you just brought him up, bro. Like, that's crazy.
And then back then you were listening to, how do you say it, Jamaican
Queens, bro! What the fuck? Yes, Jamaican Queens.
How did you find?
Oh my god, they literally were like the gods of the Detroit punk, not even punk music, but just like ratchet, warehouse, like I don't give a fuck world. And I heard their first album, it was called Worm Food. I was like, what the fuck is this? Then I moved to Detroit like a day later. I'm like, yo, these guys live in Detroit, I have to go there. And they would play shows, and like, they were just so badass. Like in their press photos, they'd be like making out with each other, like all the dudes. And like, cool. Or like sharing an apple, like biting it at the same time. Like, their album art was just like a tab of acid, and like, I don't know, their sound, I feel like, pioneered just like everything that I think is cool. They combined like trap and pop and indie, like before all this shit that's popular now. Jamaican Queens, Ryan Spencer, I fucking love you. I don't know if you'd ever see this, or you'd just be like, psh, you're whack, but I'm a lame, I love you.
And then you actually moved to LA for a girl you liked, right?
Yeah, Talia. I love her for sure. She was living in New York, and she was like, I'm moving to LA, like if you don't come, you're a lame and we'll probably break up. And I was like, alright, bet, I'll be there next week. So I moved to LA and I just had nothing popping. Like, I was working at the Pokey Shack on Melrose. Shouts out Pokey Shack. I told you I would make it. When I quit, they're like, okay, bro. Yeah, I was working at the Pokey Shack, smelling like fish. Respect to everybody who does that. I love that shit. But then I was like, fuck. And then like I started playing guitar and like Quinn XCII's thing. And then I met Elle. And I moved in with Elle. And then after that, like everything just kind of was a blur. Like I made so many records in that house. She let me drive her car. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And now I just got my own spot for like the first time in my life.
So how did you network early on?
Just like Instagram and shit.
Oh.
I mean, I didn't really compared to a lot of fools out here. Like I'm not like in a scene really.
Did you already have music out though that you were showing like Quinn or?
No, he's from he's from Michigan.
Oh.
So he knew of me. And then his manager dated a girl that I knew, and he just knew that I was just like not doing shit, but I needed to be here because I'm like in love with this girl Talia. I'm just like a hopeless romantic. But yeah, Quinn is a really sweetheart. I love that dude to death. And then I met Elle because Gosh Pith, we put out like a 7-inch on her label that she was on, B3 Psy. And so when I came out here, I messaged her and she's like, yeah, come through the studio. And I was like moping around and I was like, man, I have nowhere to live, just like complaining to someone else. She heard me, she's like, why don't you just come move in with me? And we had known each other for like 4 days. And it was so random. We even talk about it today because like we're best friends now. She's like literally like my sister. She was like, why did I even do that? Like, so I moved into her spot and then wrote like every record.
But when you were working at the Pokey place, were you just crashing on people? Like you didn't even have a place at all?
No, I didn't. I crashed at Talia's and my brother moved out here, so I crashed on their couches and crashed on my manager Jake's couch. He wasn't managing me at the time, but I actually wrote this song called Of the United States of America. It's off this mixtape I just put out, but I woke up at Jake's. He was like, yo, that sample's crazy, like I gotta go to work, but I guess you're just gonna stay here, you have nowhere else to go. I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna make this song, I promise, like I'm doing things. He was like, okay, bro. And so he came back and I had like made that song. He was like, oh shit. Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I feel like it's just one of those things, like you never know how things really happen.
How long were you crashing at on people's couches?
Probably like 6 months.
You really finessed that.
Yeah. So it was like, yeah, like 6 months. And then I lived with Elle for like a year, and I just moved to my spot.
How did you meet your management?
My manager, Jake, he was the first person to come over to my parents' house when we were like 15 years old.
What?
And he was like, yo, this is an MPC, make a beat. I was like, I don't know how to make a beat, I just play like emo songs on my guitar. He's like, bro, you need to learn how to make a beat, like, don't be like an archaic, Luddite dumbass. And I was like, okay. So I made this beat, and I don't know, we just like stayed besties and shit. And then, like, before I put out movies, he was like, yo, you need to put some music out, bro. So he's been managing me. It's tight.
And then how did you meet Interscope?
I met Interscope because I had offers from like all these record labels, but I didn't have an offer from Interscope, and I really wanted to sign Interscope just because like the hoodies are fire, and
What?
and nah, honestly, like I always wanted to sign Interscope because like Eminem and Tupac were on there, and I'm from Detroit, so like Eminem is pretty much like everything. And I met with John Janik, the CEO, after I had all these offers from these other labels. Like every other CEO is just like flexing on me like crazy, like have to go through security, like they push the meetings back, like all this shit. They had given me these crazy offers, and then I met with John Janik, and he comes out to the lobby, he's like, Yoshi, like sorry I made you wait. It was like 1 minute past the time. I was like, you're good, bro. And I was like, man, like he just gave me his cell phone number, put it in my phone, we just nerded out over like Panic at the Disco and like Gym Class Heroes and all this shit. And he was just like the only person that was like the CEO of this huge company, but that was literally like texting with new artists that he didn't have to at all. So I was like, okay, this guy like really knows something. And they have like all the fire artists, like Billie Eilish, Juice WRLD.
Yeah.
I don't know, like everybody. So
how much music did you have out when you were getting all these offers?
I think I had 2 songs out, and then the song with L.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I was like tripping out. I thought I was like hallucinating all of it. At the end of the day, you know, you just dream that shit up, and it happens.
Did you ever think that you were signing too early, like before your sound was completely morphed into what you want?
No.
Or do you think you got, so you were never skeptical because like when you hear these artists signing with deals or?
Yeah, I just feel like at the end of the day, like with or without a label or a manager or anything, like it's really just all the artists. I mean, kids, like I could go on my phone and like record us. Just like, shit, I got my screen time. I use my screen time up already. I'm an addict. So I could just go on my phone, post this video. Hey, we on Sidewalk Talk.
Hi.
And like, just talk to kids. So it's like really with or without a label, what is the difference? Like, either you do dope shit or you don't. Like, it's all just about the youth. Like, a label's not gonna stop you from being dope. All they did for me was just make it so that I didn't have to like live at people's spots and feel like they were just giving me so much. And they like helped me make my ideas come true. So I love Interscope. Like I made American Raver, and I was like, yo, we're gonna put this mixtape out October 12th, no singles. They're like, let's do it. I'm like, they haven't even heard the music. I'm like, I love you guys so much. Like,
damn.
So that's my take on it. I think it's just all about the artists and about the kids, to be honest.
Actually, what was your inspiration behind that American Raver?
My inspiration behind that was just trying to be honest, because I didn't really want to speak on anything that I didn't really know about, and I've like lived in America for like 20 some odd years, and so that's what I know. Like, and I know about taking drugs and going to school and like showing up to school when you're a kid and you're like, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And I'm like, damn, bro, they want us all to be the same. This guy got a Benz. He's a real American Raver, bro.
He's fun.
I was just like, fuck. Okay, like from the day we start leaving our house away from our parents, pull up, and they tell us to just be the same. And it's not cool, because like they should be promoting people that think differently and think uniquely. And I just was sick of like hearing music that was clearly made by people who just pulled up and said the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm like, we had to just stop being like examples of shit that we were taught by someone else and just start envisioning a world like that could be for us. So that was really the inspiration behind it. And I would wake up every day and like somebody would tell me something crazy in America and I'd be like, bro, like I can't even deal with this shit. I'm not political, I just want peace. Like with peace so much shit could be happening like in and out of America. I'm like, we need to have a fucking app that our taxes like go to, we see where it goes. Like I just need to click and be like education and like homeless people. And like it's not just America, it's everywhere. Like the Middle East is fucking crazy. Like if Israel's technology could have like Saudi Arabia's money, we could like cure AIDS or do shit. And like I feel like there's just so much weak ass blockers and shit. And I think for me, I just didn't know how to deal with it without just smoking myself. And so I just made American Raver. And like a month went by and I was still okay, still alive. And I was like, all right, cool.
How about for your music videos or inspirations? I feel like it's really cohesive.
Yeah, I mean that, I was just like, bro, I want to make videos. I don't know, like there's definitely a meaning behind it, but it's all just archetypes of the American dream, so to speak. You know, the first video I like wake up on top of a BMW with butterfly doors. And I feel like that's just like some super American shit where everyone's like, man, how did that person do this, this and that? And you never hear the story of like hundreds of thousands of minutes of like sweating, trying to figure your life out. People just see the glitz and glamour of shit. They don't understand how much goes into like finding yourself, whether it's through an object or through enlightenment or anything like that. So it's kind of what all the videos are about right now.
How do you think your music has changed compared to the early songs you made?
I don't make shit anymore caring what other people think, which weirdly makes people like it more, I guess. That probably sounds really pretentious, but I made this song just because we're paranoid doesn't mean they're not onto us. And like it got no love, but I rode around listening to that bitch for like 2 hours with my windows down. Yeah. And I was really happy, so. When I was a kid, I just made music to try and be honest. Because if I said some shit in a song and like played it for my mom, she'd just be like, huh, that's cool. But if I like said the shit I said just like to her, like this should be like, yo, you need to go to therapy, like get in the car. So basically I'm just trying to make what I think is dope, you know? You know, I'm not even really tripping about like what people would think about me. I mean, I don't think that when like Travis Scott goes in, he's like, man, I wonder what this person would think. Like he just tries to make the dopest shit that's truest to him, and that's just what I want to be like. So that's really the only way it's changed.
What would you say have been your biggest challenges so far in your life?
Probably like losing my cousin to a heroin overdose. He's like a brother to me, and he like showed me like all the dope music. He's my actual brother's best friend, so it was like serious loss for my family and shit. And like addiction and depression is just fucking crazy, bro. Like that shit is like so deep in Detroit and with families and shit. And I think just like trying to fit in with like the world, pretty much the only really struggle.
What kind of advice do you have for people's loved ones who are going through a depression or addiction?
I would say that in the darkest times is when you really have a chance to show people who you truly are. So it's like use those times as moments that you can really build who you are, because if you're in the worst addiction, or your family is, or someone's died, and it's like that moment where you should be programmed to just give up, if you can find a way to have hope and have some way to grasp onto love, then it's like when things are easy in your life, it's a breeze, because you just like built that moment of serenity. Yeah. And I mean, I would just say, like, a lot of people are like, yo, like, tell that person that you love them, like, call them and tell them you love them. I'm like, yeah, I feel that. That's important, but at the same time, it's like, addiction is fucking crazy and deeper than anyone understands, and it's a disease. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's just like spreading hope, really, is just really important right now. Mm-hmm. It's really all I could speak about on it without getting too like personal about it.
What does love mean to you?
Love to me means acceptance and pushing someone to be their true self unconditionally. It's not possessive. It's not opportunist. It's just something that's equal parts tender and real. And I'm still trying to figure out what love really means to me, but it means everything. Mm-hmm. For real. It's the only thing that matters in this world.
Yeah. Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
Wow. I want to be remembered for pushing the paradigm towards authenticity, towards equality. I want to be remembered for using my tools to help people, and I want to be remembered for making really, really dope music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you so much. I love this a lot.
It was cool.
Bye guys.
Bye guys.